But if you've seen a lot of your favorite artists come through the city, it was probably because of this man right here, SmoothVega. It's an honor to have you as our first guest on this new segment we're doing as part of our podcast. So, did I miss anything? Anything else you want to say?
Graphic designer, web designer, social media manager.
Yeah, we're gonna
nah,
get into that. Like as far as like your
I'm just
content
playing
creator.
with you. Nah, you nailed it, man. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm excited to be on here with you guys.
Yeah, and just to like really set the tone, like we're still very much new to the city. Like we're not originally from here, so what we're trying to do with this segment is like really give a voice and like really put on people on this platform. Your name speaks for yourself. You don't really need us per se, but there's probably people around the world, around the United States who still haven't, who probably don't know who you are. So it's just to give people that shine and just let them know that hey, those people exist everywhere, including Fort Worth. So, with that being said, we were doing our Googles of you, and as soon as you type in your name, a plethora of things come across. So, just to kind of give us a quick background of yourself, and how you came to be where you are now.
You know what? I've always kind of told the story the same way, which is like I started with the aspirations of being a recording artist. So when I was 13, I went to the recording studio, and I think that's what ultimately changed my life. Whenever I was 15, I started recording music, and then so I kind of went through the journey of being an independent artist. And then as time progressed and as I got my name value, I started getting experience and my name started getting up in the city. I wasn't getting booked for the type of gigs that I wanted to get booked for. So, and then to the point earlier, there wasn't really a lot of major artists coming to the city at the time. And the shows that were coming in, I wasn't part of them. And I didn't know how or why that was the case. So ultimately, I just got into doing shows myself, and I became a promoter as a result of that. And I just had a super high success rate in doing that. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much from that point forward, it spawned everything else. It spawned me, developing and working with artists, me getting into social media management way before it was called social media management. I was doing that stuff. And also, just really transitioning from being just a recording artist to more of an entrepreneur and having an entrepreneur mentality of like, anything I want to do, I'm going to do. So if I say I'm going to start a clothing line, I'm going to start a clothing line. If I say I'm going to do a concert, I'm going to do a concert. If I say I'm going to do a festival, I'm going to do a festival. If I say I'm going to start a record label, I'm going to start a record label, like no limitations whatsoever. And yeah, that's kind of my story, kind of the guy that I don't think a lot of people expected it from. The guy that on paper, if you're a sports fan, probably didn't, wasn't the most athletic, wasn't the tallest, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the strongest, but just had the one thing that you need to move the needle, and that's the want. You could teach you could teach a lot of things, but you can't teach somebody to want something. I've always felt that that's the one quality that set me apart from a lot of people is, whatever the case may be, I might have not been the most naturally skilled guy, but I was always the guy that wanted it more than everybody else. And I feel that shows in my resume.
That's dope. Yeah, that's crazy. And I think with all that, I guess that culminated in this most recent event that happened with Centro Popular, which I know just reading through the article was a tribute to your mother. Just how does something like that just happen? Because you hear about events like this happening, like let's say West Coast, East Coast, Dallas, Houston, but not so much Fort Worth. So like when we saw it and when we actually went for ourselves, it was crazy just to kind of see like all the artists, and there's artists that we had never seen before, so it was crazy to get that exposure, and see all these different types of people in this one spot. So how did something like that come to be, and what it turned out to be?
First and foremost, I appreciate you guys going, and it means a lot for you guys to just support as ticket buyers, but I would say the origin of the event, it's just kind of like natural progression, right? Like I've been doing live events since 2007, and I had a huge success rate in doing live events in 2007, 2008, 2009. In fact, if you ask me, that run was my most special run out of any run that I've ever had, because not only was it my first, but it was way before social media was like as prevalent as it is now. So like people were really buying tickets to these events the day of. There wasn't advanced tickets back then. So I've been doing it for a long time. You know, I launched my company Premier Live Experience in 2015, 2016. And from 2015, 2016 up to about 2020, I was just routing tours. You know, I was routing tours for a lot of major artists. But I think the truth is that it's like everything else. It's evolution. It always has to lead to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And being a promoter, I've been doing it for so long. So it's kind of like, well, shit, what's next? And I remember having a conversation with Joe Budden's manager, one of his managers, Corey Newton. You know, and Corey's a really good friend of mine. I consider him somewhat of a mentor as well. And Corey was like, "Hey man, I just think it's time for you to jump into the festival space." And festivals, for those that don't know, they just carry more weight with live events. It's a bigger show. It's a big stack bill, obviously, and just in terms of like artists wanting to play, agencies wanting their artists to play, it's just a bigger deal. And I had always been hesitant to jump into that space because I'd never want to do something half-assed.
Right.
And it was just time, man. You know, it was time. I kind of looked at everybody that was doing festivals, and it didn't matter how big it was or how big it. You know, like I wasn't looking at the scale of it. I was looking at like I just have to do something, and I want to do something in the Latin space because no one's really catering to the Latin demographic. And not only that, but we hadn't had anything like this in Fort Worth since 2009. And so because there was such a gap between that Latin Fest in 2009 to what we were doing this year, it just felt right. You know, it felt right. And in the process, you know, when we were getting closer, you know, I started fleshing out the idea at the end of last year. I met with Billy Bob's Texas, and we discussed, you know, possibly doing it together. And then, you know, I started having conversations with artists about who I wanted to be part of this event. I started going like, what am I going to name this event? I don't even know what I'm going to name this event. And a good friend of mine, Louis, actually had told me, man, you know, you should name it the SmoothVega Summer Jam. I was this close to naming it the SmoothVega Summer Jam. He convinced me that it was going to be the event of all events. You need to just own it and say it's your event. But something told me like, man, I want to give it a Latin flair. And when I started thinking about stuff, ironically, I had been having a lot of dreams of my mom and my brother and some of our childhood memories growing up in the video store that you alluded to. And, you know, my mom owned this record shop from the time I was born to about the time I was 11, 12 years old. So, man, dude, it just, as I thought about it, and I was like, well, what should I name this event? I was like, you know what, man, something told me to name it after her shop, which is Centro Popular, Centro Popular. And it just felt like a full circle moment, you know what I'm saying? Because it was something that like, you know, I never really credit my mother for giving me the hustle and the grind and the entrepreneurship. I always gave my dad that. I used to always tell people I have my mom's heart, my dad's hustle. But the truth is my dad has had a 9-to-5 from the time I was born to now. He's, you know, however old he is now, he still has a 9-to-5. He works his ass off. He's a hardworking guy. I love him. But I never looked at my mom in that sense, not knowing that she was the independent business owner from the time I was born to the time I was 12. Eventually, yeah, she did get a job whenever the business went upside down. But for her being a Mexican immigrant, someone that was born in Mexico, you know, moved to the States when she was a teenager, moves to California, and then relocates to Texas, and eventually starts her business in 84, 85. And to have that business go all the way through 96, 97, that's pretty fucking impressive. So I felt, you know, I wanted to bring it back around, and that's how I did it. So that's kind of giving you the background and the origin of it. And as it started developing and as it started becoming public, dude, it just started becoming very overwhelming for me because it was more than an event. Like I could have had 1,000 people there. I could have had 2,000 people there. I could have had 500 people. It didn't not matter because I was able to bring this name back to the forefront. Yeah. And I was doing a lot of media. You know, I was doing the news. I did everything, and it just felt good to know, like I don't know, it just felt good to be able to bring that name back to the light, and hopefully people do their research now.